joining me today, and I have with me Dr. Alma Khan from the Harley Street Skin Clinic. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
And I understand you're going to share with us several different ways that we could actually look more youthful with various treatments that are available to us today. So thank you for coming along and taking the time to do that.
You're very welcome.
Right.
To start with, I'd just like to say that there's been a lot in the press about the, in quotes, lunchtime facelift. And there are different ways of approaching this. And I think that something like Botox and filler can be done in a lunchtime and people can go away immediately afterwards and go back to work. However, something like a silhouette soft lift, which is a little bit more invasive, there is repositioning of the skin and some puckering and bunching of the skin and dimpling, and there may be more bruising and swelling associated with the procedure, though it can be done in the same sort of time. It shouldn't really be promoted as a lunchtime facelift because people's concepts are that, you know, we go in, we have it done, we go back to work. And I would normally recommend 2 to 3 days to just go home, recover, let the swelling go down before you get back to activity.
Right. And how exactly does the silhouette soft work? I mean, what's involved in the process? Okay,
well, the silhouette soft is a suture. It's a thread, if you like, made out of a dissolvable material or a resorbable material which the body breaks down and gets rid of. We've been using these type of sutures in surgery for over 30 years as deep sutures, which then, you know, dissolve. They cause a little bit of collagen stimulation in the area, which strengthens the repair, and the body just gets rid of it totally. So we know how the body reacts to it, and it's very rare for people to have allergic or adverse reactions to the material. And its application in aesthetic medicine was developed about 3 to 4 years ago, and I don't know if you can see this.
I can do, yes.
Okay, it's a thread with 2 needles, and you've got little cones. And those cones are facing in different directions. So once we put them in this way, then the cones, the base of the cones on each side is facing upwards, so the skin can be draped and suspended onto those cones. So it can actually affect a lift by massaging the skin upwards. That will cause a little bit of puckering of the skin, because naturally if we move the skin up, you get a little bit of bunching. And that little bit of bunching will remodel itself over 3 to 5 days. It will settle down. And if people have long hair, they can cover it. Short hair like me, they'll show it.
So how does that differ then? Because people did have thread lifts previously. I mean, how is this technique different to the ones that have been around a little bit longer?
Yeah, I mean, threads were developed quite a while ago. And the first threads that came out were just simple threads, which looped around and bunched the skin up. The problem with that was that they were non-resorbable, and they would slide through the tissues. Then somebody thought, well, if we put little barbs into the thread, so what they did was they cut little barbs into the thread. So it was very much like the stem of a rose with little barbs. The barbs were facing upwards, and they would drape the skin on top. Now, the problem with that was that if you cut into the suture, you weaken the suture. Also, where you have that little V, where the barb is, you get a fibrotic reaction. The body reacts against that because it irritates the body. And that fibrotic reaction is so strong that it can shear off the little barb, which then floats around in the tissues. Now, in some people, because they're non-resorbable, they could be there for a long time. In some people, if there's a strong enough reaction, then the body will extrude, it will push out that barb, and that could then come out in the skin. So you just get little lumpiness, barbs coming out, and that wasn't really a very good idea. If the barbs broke off, you would lose that suspension. So you would lose the effect, you would have a non-resorbable material in your skin, and you would have little tiny sharp barbs, which could cause harm depending on which way they went. So these sutures, you have the suture part, which has little pops in. You then have little cones around that, which can cause and help with the suspension. Now, initially, the knot will give a downward pull on the suspension, so the cones can hold the skin up.
Right.
Cones then dissolve and they break down. They're made of polylactic acid.
Mm-hmm.
Lactic acid is something your body produces anyway. When we exercise, we produce lactic acid.
Yeah.
And it's got a little bit of glycolic acid in, which causes a little bit of irritation to the tissues. So when these break down and disappear, and the body gets rid of them, then those knots that remain have a little bit of tissue fibrosis and bonding around them. So that then holds the skin up.
Right.
The sutures are just polylactic acid. They'll then in due course disappear,
Mm-hmm.
leaving an area of strengthened collagen and a little bit of fibrosis, which takes another 6 to 12 months to go.
Right.
So in total, the effect can last about 18 months.
So at the end of the 18 months, does it go back to how it was before you had the treatment?
Well, yeah, more or less.
Mm.
So what will happen is, because there's a little bit of collagenesis there which slowly disappears, it may be slightly better or it may go back. In our experience, it's never been worse. And in my personal experience, people are coming 2 years after the procedure, on average, to have the procedure done again.
All right. So I mean, is it something then that would replace those people that have, say, Botox and fillers? Is it something that you'd have alongside it, or is it something you'd have instead of it?
No, absolutely. It's something you can have alongside it.
Mm-hmm.
When we're looking at aging, there are 5 different aspects to aging we need to be aware of. One is the skin.
Mm-hmm.
So skin care, skin peels, skin treatments are still very important, because what that does is it reflects youthfulness by the way that light is reflected off the skin.
Right.
So if we have nice, luminescent, smooth skin, it looks younger.
Right.
The second area is muscular hyperactivity, which are the muscles of expression,
Mm-hmm.
and as we get older, they start to become more
Yeah.
powerful, and they pull the brow down, the chin comes into action, that causes the dimpling in the chin, and these downpull muscles become stronger, pulling the jowl down.
So you're saying there's an awful lot to look forward to then as we get older?
Well, our vision goes as well, so I think nature is there. But the other thing is volume loss. That's the third thing. We lose volume, particularly around the eyes. And we lose volume in the skin as well, so collagen starts to deplete. More so in women, particularly when they're approaching and going through the menopause. The enzymes that break down collagen are inhibited by estrogens.
Right.
When women lose that estrogen, then that enzyme becomes more active. So suddenly, after the menopause, women may see a change which is more dramatic in a short period of time, and they wonder what's happening. The other things that change are the deeper tissues. Now, the deeper tissues can only be addressed by surgery. These are the muscles and the deeper tissues that tend to become lax and hang down.
Mm-hmm.
And the last aspect, of course, are the bones. The bones change as well.
Yeah.
We get recession. These dimples get deeper. Our chins start to recede. And again, women more so than men because of those hormonal changes that they see. So what the sutures do is the Botox addresses the muscles.
Mm-hmm.
The fillers address the soft tissue volume loss and the bony volume loss. But the sutures can address the laxity of the skin.
Right.
Not the deeper tissues, the skin. And that can then pull up very gently, it's a gentle soft lift, the skin into a more youthful position.
Mm. Right. Thank you very much for explaining that. And I believe you're going to be demonstrating this, aren't you, at the anti-aging show in Olympia in May?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking forward to that. We demonstrated at a previous show, and the response was tremendous. I mean, it was very educational for people as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an opportunity for people to ask questions and dispel some of the myths that are out there.
Right. Well, I'm going to be there. So I'm going to look forward. I should look forward to popping along and actually seeing it all happen live, as they say. So thank you very much for sharing that, and look forward to doing the show. And what I'll also do is include a link to your website. So if people want to get in touch with you directly to inquire about the procedure, obviously they can do that if they're not able to make it to the show.
Lovely. That's great. Look forward to seeing you there.
Thank you.
Take care.